Alright folks, I'm going to show you a quick little way of two different lifts on Ford twin traction beams. This is a truck I'm working on for a coworker of mine. It has the drop bracket lift, as you can see there and there. It also has the drop brackets, the radius arms. It's not bad drop brackets, but not my preferred way to lift a twin traction beam. I've been building my Bronco for 4 years now, which I'll show you right here. And I have no drop brackets in it at all. It has cut and turn beams that I've done myself, and 500 wall DOM radius arms. Factory brackets, just moved back. I made those myself as well. They still have the factory front section. You can see it rubs on my tires. I had a set of thinner ones that I built that I actually put a bend in so they would clear the 35s with 10 wide wheels, 11 wide wheels, something like that. But I destroyed them. I have not been nice to this thing over the time I've had it, and she takes quite a bit of abuse. It's got 4-inch lift coils. You can actually, if you want to do this yourself, you can actually find online the specs on how far you need to move each side's lower ball joint out. And right there, you can't really see it real well. You can see some of the weld on the bottom. But that is where the ball joint moves out. The only thing you run into is clocking the diff a little bit to, I found, to keep the four-wheel drive going in and out smoothly. Otherwise, that driver's side wanted to bind, trying to lock the hubs in and out. But the downside, let me see, get my light. Shop's kind of a mess. I have about 20 different projects on different vehicles. I just got done putting a lift on a Duramax yesterday. And let's see if I can get this on video. That right there is cracks in the main cross member. That's a crack. There's a crack right there. And there's one on the back side. You can see right there is where they actually welded the drop bracket to the cross member that has chipped a piece of the cross member out. And you come over here, that's where they welded it on the back side to try and strengthen it, but that cracked as well. So if you're going to wheel these hard, which a lot of people tell you don't wheel the independent front very hard, those U-joints, I've gone through a few. RCV now makes ultimate TTB twin traction beam axle shafts. They're like $2,100, but they're all CV joints and lifetime warranty, so that's what my rig's getting eventually. But in my opinion, ride quality, go fast, fun, I like the traction beam because it just rides far smoother than, but granted, I'm used to that second gen Cummins I have, but it's just a smooth riding machine. The Bronco mostly gets wheeled in the snow, so bigger tires are in order for it. I don't think I've done a video, hi puppy, of any of the build on this. It started life. I'll actually copy a picture if I can find it of what this was when I bought it. It's an 83. The truck's a 1990. But this is my personal rig, 12,000 pound Harbor Freight winch, 12.5, 35/15s on it, 4-inch Pro Comp coils. It's actually got, and I'm no master fabricator, but that is F250 shocks for length. It's eventually going to get coilovers, but as you can see, I cut the whole coil bucket out on that end, braced it, and ran a longer shock just to get the droop that I wanted, because factory it would limit those shocks. So It's got way more shock than it needs on it. Interior, here, we'll let it down so we can look inside of it. It's on my crane right now with the winch. Not the safest thing to be crawling around under, but it works. And then interior, it's got the optional GT bar that came from the dealerships. Got that in a parts Bronco at the junkyard. But she's got rusty floors, as you can see. This is a 2014 Ford Flex heated leather interior. Comfy, nice. However, Ford Flexes are narrower, so the steering wheel's not quite centered in the seat. Factory bench in the back. Had a factory bench up front originally. It's welded diffs front and rear with manual lock hubs. It has a C6 automatic with a NP transfer case. Started life as a straight 6. It's now a 351 HO Windsor out of a 86 F250. All factory, nothing came factory with a little bigger cam, but that was the only real difference in the HO. Still got factory manifolds, factory exhaust. It's got back to a single glass pack that I ran as tucked into the body as I can get. That comes out right there. Just goes back there. You can see it started to melt my inner fender a little bit, but that way I won't catch it on anything on the rocks or drag anything off anywhere else. But yeah, it's been a fun toy. It was super cheap when I bought it, and I've kept it super cheap. The most expensive thing on it's the tires. The motor I bought for $200. Put all new seals and gaskets in it. It's got a Rochester Quadrajet on there. Factory 4-barrel manifold. The bumper I did myself. I actually fabbed that up for my Cummins before I bought the ranch hand for it. And it fit on here pretty nicely. That's an old Super Duty tow loop that I had laying around. That one fits my shackles on that side. But cut and turned beams, 4-inch coils, no drop brackets, no cracks. And it's been well abused. I've used this thing in 2, 3, 4 feet of snow with about 4 pounds of pressure in the tires. Roof rack with a full-size spare, toolbox and max tracks. I've wheeled it in the rocks. I have not wheeled it in the rocks with the 35s in stock gearing. It still has 355s in it. When I had 32s on it, I went and wheeled it in the rocks, and it did fine. I do have to do some body trimming, but I don't feel too bad because she's starting to rust. Rear's getting worse. But we'll clearance the 35s, and eventually, once I get some CV shafts for the front and some gears, we're going to gear down and go to hopefully 40s. But just wanted to do a little video on the difference in lifts and show you why it might be a good idea to spend the money. There's a couple companies that will sell pre-cut and turned beams or cut and turn your beams, and you can get rid of this whole drop bracket assembly because that's just way too much lever arm on that factory cross member. And then you can just run the drop brackets on the radius arms aren't nearly as bad. They aren't nearly as prone to breaking. But as far as it's still better if you go long arm like me on the Bronco, in my opinion. But those aren't nearly as prone to cracking. as the cross member is. But yeah, so that's two different styles of Dana 44 twin traction beam front ends. Those U-joints aren't fun to replace. I've done both sides of mine because I broke both of them wheeling. But it was in deep snow and getting dark, and I had to get out of there. So I got out with 3-wheel drive. So, but yeah, pretty much the same setup. They ran dual shocks on this. I think those are probably, I don't know who ran the blue springs, but as you can see, they never extended brake lines, which is a little rough. This brake caliper is actually seized. That's part of the work I'm doing to this, is I got to replace that caliper. The steering gearbox is on the bench because it was leaking and it was cracked on the cover. And then I'm also doing, let's see, what else do I have? I'm going to have the manifolds replaced. This was actually a CNG truck at one point in time. You can see the crack in the manifold. The guy likes it. He wants to restore it and make it his own. So I told him it's, you know, you're never going to get your money out of it, but if you like it, that's fine. But I have a new steering gear on the way. Oh, and it idles high because the upper intake manifold gasket's bad. It's leaking. And then somebody taped up their brake line over here. But yeah, just some general maintenance, and I mean, it's a 30-year-old truck, so this one has the overdrive trans with the Borg-Warner 1356 transfer case in it. Still a 4-8 rear end. Basically exactly the same setup with a few modifications. Same frame, same drivetrain. It's a 302 in this, but very similar. So, cool. Thanks for watching.